I called the IG, sent pictures of what have happened here to everybody. No one has responded. I only see two gentlemen policemen who come here to see the CP, ask them to come and assess what happened here. I say, in a distress situation, not only one man waka come.
Well, our correspondent reports that 4 vehicles were destroyed in the attack. The APC in Rivers State has filed a suit in court challenging Executive Orders 21 and 22 signed into law by the state government. The suit is against the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Governor Nyesom Wike, Inspector General of Police, and the 23 local government chairmen. Now, when the matter came up today, Justice Emmanuel Obile of the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt listened to the presentation from the lawyers and adjourned the case for hearing and possible adoption of addresses to December 20th. Well, lawyer to the APC, Collins Dike, in an interview, said his client is challenging the legality and constitutionality of the executive orders by Governor Wike, which he says is against his fundamental human rights. Well, the lawyer to the Nigerian police declined to comment on the proceedings. Moving on now, Governor Nyesom Wike says the state government will not be distracted with campaigns like some other state governors who have abandoned governance for electioneering. He said this at the flag-off of the construction of the Rumigbo internal roads today.
We want to focus on the development of our community. People say, oh, you are leaving office. What are you doing? I say, I will work and work till 29th of May 2023. Because that is the day my agreement will terminate with the people of Rivers State. I'm not going to say, let me go and relax and abandon communities that have not benefited. So we'll continue to work for all of us.
Now, on the perennial flooding in Rumigbo community, Governor Nyesom Wike said his administration will acquire land in the community to channel the water. Meanwhile, the coordinator of Grassroots Development Initiative, GDI, in Eche local government area, Ihani Chukwu Irebu, popularly called Paparazzi, has commended Governor Nyesom Wike for his strong commitment to the delivery of physical infrastructure in Rivers State. Mr. Irebu, in a statement, noted that Governor Wike's commitment in expanding the road network and other critical infrastructures in all parts of the state has proven that he is the best governor in Nigeria. The HADI coordinator said the governor's huge investment in basic infrastructure is serving as a stimulus for rapid economic growth of the state. Now, while lauding the governor for still flagging off projects towards the end of his administration, Mr. Irebu said the GDI in Eche Council will mobilize massively to vote for the PDP governorship candidate, Siminalayi Fubara, and all other PDP candidates to consolidate on the new Rivers vision. The Minister of Environment, Mohammed Abdullahi, has given an update on the ongoing implementation of the Ogoni cleanup. He said a total of 21 sites covering about 230 hectares out of the 65 sites reported in the UNEP report fact sheet have been remediated. Mr. Abdullahi also called on state governors to render accounts on the money they collected on ecological funds. The minister spoke at the 8th edition of the President Muhammadu Buhari Administration Scorecard series.
Initially, the federal government had used ecological funds, but the state argued that they must be given their own share of ecological funds. The federal government accepted, and at every fund allocation, they give their own share of allocation to states. So, I think the question should be more to states: what are you doing with your share of ecological funds, not the federal government?
Moving on now. The Labour Party is proposing a national minimum wage of 80 to 100,000 naira if the party's presidential candidate Peter Obi is elected in 2023. While speaking on Channels Television today, the Deputy National Chairman of the party, Dr. Ayo Olorunfemi, said Nigeria has the potential to ensure that workers are hugely rewarded beyond the current 30,000 naira national minimum wage.
We are looking at between 500 to 8,000, depending on the nature of work power. If you do a kind of simulation of that, it will give you an average of between 80 and 100,000 per month. And so if we are talking about minimum wage of 80,000, of course, that is where we ought to have been.
The Chief of Defence Staff, General Lucky Irabor, says the cash withdrawal policy. Stay tuned. 2.3 Nigeria Info. The Director General of the World Trade Organization, WTO, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, has been named the African Female Leader of the Year by UK-based African Leadership Magazine, ALM. Well, ALM, in a statement, said the category was part of the 11th African Leadership Persons of the Year Award 2022. Now, the African Leadership Persons of the Year awards are decided with votes and held yearly for leading Africans contributing to the development of the continent. The family of late Port Harcourt social media influencer Odeyemi Michael, also known as Yemi the Plug, has announced the schedule for his burial. In a flyer released online, the family said he will be buried on Saturday at 10 a.m. at the Port Harcourt Cemetery. Recall that Odeyemi died after suffering an asthma attack last Tuesday. In business, the House of Representatives has summoned the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, over the bank's new policy on cash withdrawals. But this followed a resolution by the lawmakers during plenary today. The CBN governor is expected to appear before the House next week, Thursday. In entertainment, Afro-pop star Davido is set to perform at the closing ceremony of the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Hong Kong businessman Stephen Hong announced this on Instagram today. And in sports, Luis Enrique has left his role as coach of Spain's national team after the country crashed out of the 2022 World Cup. While the former Real Madrid and Barcelona player had been the coach since 2018.
And now, we bring you news from around the world.
The US and Russia have exchanged jailed US basketball star Brittany Griner for notorious arms dealer Victor Bout, held in an American prison for 12 years, where President Joe Biden said Griner was safe and on a plane home from the United Arab Emirates. That's the news, but before we go, another look at the major highlights. On the news this evening, you heard that gunmen attacked the residence of Atiku Abubakar's ally, Senator Lee Maiba, in Port Harcourt. The APC in Rivers State is challenging the executive orders 21 and 22 in court. Governor Nyesom Wike has promised that all Rivers communities will benefit from his administration. Late Port Harcourt social media influencer Yemi the Plug will be buried this Saturday at the Port Harcourt Cemetery. And on the foreign scene, Russia has released US basketball star Brittany Griner in a swap with arms dealer Victor Bout. That was the news. Cloudy weather in Port Harcourt this evening. Collect your PVC and vote. Your vote is your voice. My name is Constance Mega. Thank you so much for listening. Good evening.
Are you up to date with ideas for sustainable development?